In a small village near the Niger River in Nigeria, a girl named Grace was born with a voice so sweet it could charm anyone who heard it. But there was a problem: her voice was dangerous. From the day she spoke her first word, something strange happened. Everyone in the village who heard her fell asleep and never woke up. The farmers, the traders, even the goats and chickens dropped where they stood, lost in a deep, endless sleep. Only her parents, James and Esther, survived because they loved her so much they could resist the magic in her voice. Still, they were scared of her power. As Grace grew, her parents knew they had to keep her safe from the world, and the world safe from her. They built a small hut far from the village in a quiet forest near Asaba and taught her to stay quiet. Instead of talking, she carried a little bell to ring when she needed something. Grace was a clever girl. Her mother taught her at home, and she learned fast. She could read big books, count numbers, and make up stories in her head without saying a word. She was smart, but she was lonely. She had no friends to play with, and she could never go to the market or run around with other children. Her parents told her to keep her voice locked inside so no one would hear it by mistake. When Grace turned 18, her parents decided she should go to school in Lagos. They couldn't keep her hidden forever. To stay safe, Grace promised to stay silent and used her bell to get attention instead of speaking. At the big university in Lagos, Grace became famous for her smartness. She got the best grades in every class, finished her homework faster than anyone, and her teachers loved her work. But she didn't care about their praise. She just wanted to finish school without putting anyone to sleep forever. Some students didn't understand why she never talked. They whispered about her. Some said she was shy. Others thought she was strange. But one girl, Sophia, was the loudest. Sophia was a bully who liked to act big and boss people around. She always picked on others, and Grace was her favorite person to tease. One day, Sophia walked up to Grace in the school courtyard with a group of students watching. "Hey, Grace, why don't you ever talk? Are you hiding a squeaky voice or something?" Sophia laughed, crossing her arms. The other students giggled, waiting to see what Grace would do. Grace stayed calm, her eyes locked on Sophia. She rang her bell softly and wrote on a small chalkboard she carried, "You don't want to hear me." Sophia laughed louder. "Oh, come on. If it's not bad, say something. Prove it." Grace shook her head and wrote again, "Trust me, it's better this way." But Sophia wouldn't stop. Every day, she teased Grace. "If you're not scared, open your mouth," she'd say, and the students would laugh. Grace ignored her. She knew what could happen if she spoke, and she didn't want anyone to get hurt. But Sophia and her friends kept bothering her, no matter how much she tried to focus on her books. One afternoon, as Grace walked to her history class, Sophia stepped in front of her. "Today's the day," Sophia said with a sneaky smile. "You're going to talk, or everyone will know you're a baby." More students gathered around, curious. Grace looked at Sophia for a long time, then wrote, "If I talk, you won't like it." Sophia rolled her eyes. "Sure, whatever. You're just too chicken to speak." Grace took a deep breath. She didn't want to hurt anyone, but she was tired of Sophia's teasing. She wrote again, "You think I'm quiet because I'm weak. I'm quiet to keep you safe." The crowd got quiet. Sophia's smile faded a little, but she didn't back off. "I don't need you to keep me safe. Talk, or admit you're afraid." Grace's heart beat fast. She wanted to tell Sophia the truth, that her voice wasn't just sweet, it was deadly, but she knew Sophia wouldn't believe her. So she turned away, ringing her bell softly, refusing to give in. Days went by, and Sophia kept mocking her. "You're just afraid we'll laugh at you," she'd yell, but Grace stayed silent, working hard on her schoolwork. She didn't want Sophia to win by making her mad. Still, other students started talking more. Why doesn't she talk? Is something wrong with her? Maybe she's got a curse. There was a boy named Daniel at the university. He was tall and handsome, and almost every girl liked him. He was friendly and popular, but he didn't care about finding a girlfriend. He just liked having fun. Sophia, who always had a mean trick ready, decided to use Daniel for her next plan. One day at lunch, she walked up to him, smiling big. "Daniel," she said, sitting close, "I need you to help me with something." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "What now, Sophia? Another one of your silly games?" Sophia grinned. "This one's great. It's about that weird girl, Grace, the one who never talks." Daniel said, "Yeah, I've seen her." "What about her?" Sophia leaned in, excited. "I want you to be her friend. Act nice, make her trust you. Then, when she's not looking, get her to talk and record her voice. Send it to me, and I'll handle the rest." Daniel frowned. "Why do you care so much? She's not hurting anyone." Sophia rolled her eyes. "She acts like she's better than us, staying quiet like it's a big secret. I bet her voice is terrible. I want everyone to hear it and laugh." Daniel wasn't sure. He didn't like Sophia's mean ideas, but she was pushy. She always got people to do what she wanted. Daniel thought about it and said yes, even though it didn't feel right. He figured it would be easy to get close to Grace since she didn't have many friends. He started sitting near Grace in class, acting like he cared about the lessons. At first, Grace didn't notice him much. She was used to people ignoring her or making fun of her. But Daniel was different. He didn't tease her, he smiled at her, which made her wonder what he wanted. One day, he sat next to her in the library. "Hi," he said nicely, "You're Grace, right?" Grace looked up and nodded, ringing her bell softly. She wrote, "Yes." "Is something wrong?" Daniel leaned back, acting relaxed. "No, I just see you around. You seem cool. Want to be friends?" Grace didn't trust him right away. No one ever wanted to be her friend. Most people stayed away, and the ones who didn't were usually mean. "Why me?" she wrote. Daniel smiled. "You're smart and different." "That's nice." Grace didn't answer at first. She wasn't sure about him, but he didn't seem bad. Over the next few days, Daniel kept trying. He sat with her in class, walked with her after lessons, and even brought her little snacks like groundnuts or biscuits. Slowly, Grace started to like him. She wrote to him about books she loved and how she enjoyed learning about plants. For the first time, she felt like someone cared about what she thought. One evening, Daniel said, "Let's study together at your place." "You're so smart, Grace. I need help with my homework." Grace wasn't sure, but she nodded yes. Maybe she'd finally found a real friend. When he came over, she made tea for him. Daniel smiled as he took the cup, but he had a small bottle of sleeping medicine in his pocket that Sophia gave him. When Grace turned to get her books, he poured it into her tea. "Here," he said, handing it back, "you work hard. Relax a bit." Grace smiled and sipped the tea. They chatted, he talked, she wrote, until her eyes felt heavy. "I'm sleepy," she wrote, yawning. Daniel nodded. "You've been studying a lot, rest. I'll leave soon." Grace lay on her mat, hoping she'd found a friend. Soon, she was fast asleep. Daniel waited until she was out. His hands shook as he walked to her mat. He felt bad, Grace had been so kind to him. But Sophia's words stuck in his head, "Get her to talk and record it." He leaned close and whispered, "Grace, say something." In her sleep, she mumbled softly, and her voice slipped out, sweet and strong, like a song. It wasn't just pretty, it pulled him in. Before he could move, his eyes closed, his legs gave out, and he fell to the ground, asleep forever. A few minutes later, Grace woke up, feeling dizzy. She saw Daniel lying still and gasped. Her heart sank. She shook high, but he didn't wake up. Tears filled her eyes as she and her bell hard. Why, Daniel? Why? She cried inside. Her neighbors in the hostel heard the bell and came running. Someone saw Daniel and shouted. Soon, the school guards came, and then the police from Lagos arrived. The police found Grace sitting by Daniel, ringing her bell sadly. What happened? An officer asked Stanley. Grace's hands shook as she wrote, he heard my voice. It puts people to sleep forever. I didn't mean it. I warned him. The police weren't sure what to believe. Some had heard tales about her, but they sounded like stories. They talked to her parents and learned about her strange gift. This isn't her fault, one officer said to another. She's not trying to harm anyone. They let Grace go that night. When she got home, her parents hugged her tight. I don't want to hurt anyone else, she said softly, tears falling. Maybe I should stay in the forest forever. Grace, her mother said, sitting beside her, you can't hide from life. I know you're scared, but you're strong. You've come so far in school. Don't stop now. Grace looked down. But, Mom, it's hard. People stare, and they don't understand. What if someone hears me again? Her mother held her hand. You can't let fear win, my dear. Finish school for yourself. People will talk, but that's not who you are. You've got so much to give. Grace wiped her eyes. What about Sophia? She's always mean to me. How do I handle her? Her mother smiled. Ignore her, Grace. People like Sophia want to pull you down, but you're better than that. Focus on your dreams. You're in charge of your life. Grace nodded, thinking hard. It wouldn't be easy, but she wanted to try. Okay, Mom. I'll keep going. Her mother hugged her. Good girl. I'm with you all the way. The next day, Grace went back to school, feeling nervous but ready. She wanted to focus on her studies and forget the bullies. As she walked through the school gate, she kept her head low. But in the library, Sophia spotted her with her group of girls. Well, look who's back, the quiet killer, Sophia said loudly. Did your parents pay the police to let you go? You're just a weirdo who can't talk. Grace's heart raced. She knew this was coming, but it still stung. She tried to walk past, but Sophia kept going. You think you're special because your parents have a big farm. Without that, you'd be locked up. Grace stopped and turned to face her. She wrote, at least I'm not you, Sophia. You chase every boy in school just to feel important. Who's the real joke? Sophia's face turned red. You don't know anything. I like boys, so what? You're the one who should hide. Grace wrote again, I'm not hiding. You're the one failing classes because you care more about boys than books. Sophia froze, then snapped, you're just jealous because I've got friends and you don't. Grace shook her head and wrote, I'm not jealous. I'm working for my future. You should try it. Sophia had no answer. She stormed off, and Grace felt strong. She'd stood up for herself, and it felt good. A week later, a new boy named Peter came to school. He was tall and good-looking, and all the girls talked about him. His big smile and kind eyes made him special. Grace heard the chatter as she walked by. Sophia saw him and said to her friends, he's mine. He's too perfect. Some friends agreed, but others were tired of her games. The next day, Sophia walked up to Peter in the hall. "Hi, Peter," she said sweetly. "You're new. Want to be friends? I can show you around." Peter ignored her and kept walking. Sophia's smile dropped, and her friends laughed. "He's just shy," she mumbled. "I'll win him with my charm." She kept trying, but Peter didn't care. Soon, Peter started talking to Grace. He liked how kind and smart she was. They became friends, chatting during breaks, Peter talking, Grace writing. She helped him with schoolwork, and he liked her quiet strength. His friends didn't get it and told him to stay away, but Peter didn't listen. Over weeks, their friendship grew. One day, Grace's parents visited her in Lagos. Peter met them at her hostel, nervous but brave. "I'm Peter," he said, shaking their hands. "I care about Grace a lot. I think I love her." James smiled, but Esther looked serious. "Peter," she said, "Grace's voice has a curse. It puts people to sleep forever. But there's a cure. The old storyteller told us years ago, only someone who truly loves her can hear her voice and break the spell." Peter's eyes widened. "I do love her. I want to hear her voice." Esther nodded. "If your love is real, you'll be safe." From then on, Peter kept asking Grace, "I want to hear your voice. I love you, and I think I can handle it." Grace shook her head and wrote, "It's dangerous. I can't risk you." But Peter insisted, "I met your parents. Your mom told me about the cure. Trust me." Grace liked him, maybe loved him, but she was scared. What if he fell asleep too? Sophia found out they were close and got mad. She marched up to Grace. "You think you're smart, stealing my boy," she yelled. Grace wrote, "Your boy. He doesn't even like you. We are just friends." Sophia hissed, "You don't belong here, you quiet freak." Grace stood tall and wrote, "I'm here to learn, not chase boys like you. You're the silly one." Sophia glared. "You'll be sorry." Grace wrote, "I'm not scared of you." Sophia stormed off. That night, Grace told her mom, "Graduation's in a month. I want to sing at it. I'm tired of being quiet." Her mother frowned. "You know the cure, Grace. It takes true love." Grace sighed. "Peter says he loves me, but I'm scared." Her mother hugged her. "If he's the one, you'll see." At school, Sophia wouldn't give up. 2 weeks before graduation, she shouted at Grace, "Silent Grace, will you stay quiet forever, or will we hear your awful voice?" Grace wrote, "Thank goodness you're leaving soon, Sophia. Did you bribe the teachers to pass?" The students laughed. Grace added, "Everyone knows you beg rich men for money to look big. You're fake." Sophia ran off, red-faced, as the crowd cheered. Peter kept pushing. One evening under a tree, he said, "Grace, I've loved you for weeks. Your mom told me I can break the curse. Please, sing for me." Grace's heart raced. She wrote, "I love you too, but I'm afraid you'll sleep forever." Peter took her hand. "I won't. My love is real." After a long pause, Grace whispered, "Okay." She sang a soft tune. Peter smiled, wide awake. "I'm fine. I love you, that's why." Grace cried happy tears. The next day, everyone her voice had put to sleep, Daniel, the villagers, woke up, stretching like they'd just napped. Grace sang at school, and students stared, amazed. Sophia gasped, "That's your voice?" Grace smiled. "Yes. Everyone's awake now. Think before you judge." The crowd cheered as Grace felt free. Dear friends, what did you learn from Grace's story? Tell us below. If you liked it, share it and stay tuned for more. Please subscribe to my channel for more interesting stories like this.